Okay, this is Algebra 2, Set 112, Practice Problems A and B. These are the practice problems, and we'll go ahead and start with Part A. So, notice the domain is the real numbers. Notice that it is less than 0, so that means we're looking for negative numbers. Negative numbers are going to have a negative and a positive and a negative. So we'll split it up, make them less than 0, and we'll start with positive, negative. Okay, so x plus 4 is less than 0. Subtract 4 from both sides, we get x is less than negative 4. Go over to the other side. Negative x minus 1 is less than 0. Distribute the negative sign. And we get negative x plus 1 is less than 0. Subtract 1 from both sides. And we get negative x is less than negative 1. The last step is divide both sides by negative 1 and switch the sign. So we get x is greater than 1. When we graph this, we'll get less than negative 4, greater than 1. There's no overlap because there's no solution because there's no overlap. So we'll move on and try negative positive. Okay, so same problems, but in this time we're going to change it. We're going to do negative positive. So negative x plus 4 is less than 0, and we get distributed negative x minus 4 is less than 0. Add 4 to both sides. Divide by negative 1. We get x is greater than negative 4. Okay, this time this side is positive. We'll add 1 to both sides. Now we'll graph it. And x is greater than negative 4. X is less than 1. And again, we want to figure out where they overlap. They overlap in this section. So we are going to write it. Remember, when we write this interval, x goes in the middle, and it's greater than negative 4 and less than 1. So this is the way that we write it. And then graph it one last time. You can just graph it simply like that. There's your solution for Part A. Part B. It's not in factored form, and notice that the domain is integers. So the first thing we need to do is factor it. We need to come up with two numbers that multiply to give us 10 and add to give us negative 3. So multiply to give you negative 10 and add to give you negative 3. So we know it's going to be a positive and a negative. When we go through, 10 and 1, 1 and 10 do not give us 3. So it's got to be 5 and 2 or 2 and 5. And it's going to be a negative 5 and a positive 2 to give us negative 3. So we'll put that up in our parentheses. X plus 2, x minus 5 is less than 0. Split them up. Assign a positive and a negative. So we get x plus 2 is less than 0. X is less than negative 2. We'll assign a negative to the second one. Distribute that negative sign. Subtract 5. Divide by negative 1. And then we'll graph it. Now remember, we're graphing integers. Less than negative 2, greater than 5. There's no solution because it does not overlap. So now we need to try negative positives. Okay, so trying negative positive. Negative x plus 2 is less than 0. Distribute that negative sign. Add 2. Divide by negative 1 and switch the sign. X is greater than negative 2. Okay, this one's positive. So we add 5 to both sides. X is less than 5. We'll graph it. We're graphing integers. X is greater than negative 2. And we're going to graph x is less than 5 in red just so that it shows up a little bit better. And we're looking for where they overlap. They overlap right there in the middle. And we'll write the inequality. X is less than 5 and it's bigger than negative 2. Remember, when you graph this kind of an inequality, the x goes in the middle. And then we'll graph the solution one more time just to make it clear. with those integers marked in the middle, and there's your solution.